everybody, and happy good tidings and wishes for a new year in advance. So I would like to start this as a discussion. Basically, I will put up some points on the, and Tony has done a great job putting it in a proper manner and etc. So we will start now. Ano Badra Kratavo Yanto Vishwato Dabdhaso Aparitasa Udbidhaha. This is a mantra from the Rig Veda which says, let noble thoughts come to us from everywhere. In fact, this is also the slogan or catchphrase on the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan symbol, emblem. That is what they use on the emblem. Seeking noble thought from everywhere. One thing I would like to give out now is that I have been a trainer early in my career. I have been a proper lecturer in an engineering college. I have been trained extensively in course of my career, and the highest training I have gone through is in a leadership development program in IIM Bank. As I said, the trigger for this topic was that some of my former colleagues have started an academy for training and things like that, and so many others have also started in their own way. On LinkedIn, I see Rudresh, or one of our, of course, I have not directly worked with him. Probably our other colleagues are working with him. Also has so many programs, and also many engineering colleges are offering these programs, all branches. One thing I would request as an outcome for all this is that industry leaders like all of you who will be hiring people for your own businesses, advising people to hire, or set of guidelines so that people can get themselves trained properly. What's happening is this is a commercial exercise, and so getting training for the only for the knowledge part of it. They want training to get a job, or to make a progression in their career, or to get an increment, or to get some more money. And so they also invest in all these things. And people who train are also not doing it just as a corporate social responsibility, etc. It's a proper commercial thing. So there's a lot of money involved in this, even though not, but it is enough money for people to get trained, because they will either they will be unemployed or seeking their first jobs, changing jobs. So we need to. I feel people like you who are industry leaders need to define as to what exactly will help them or help you to recognize the needs and make it fruitful for them. What's happening now in what I have seen is since project related, this is not just confined only to the civil engineering. This is confined to civil, mechanical, electrical for project related, which is very much a touch and feel job. So any amount of training a newcomer gets may not be very useful. So we need to know what exactly he needs to, tone his skills or etc. There is something called as the soft skills business. Now, a lot of people come out with the soft skills. My problem is even my son came out one day, 6-7 years ago with a certificate which said he had been trained by Infosys Foundation in soft skills from an engineering. Then I said, did they ever teach you to speak properly to your parents? Well, so that was not a part of their syllabus. Now the problem is people have soft skills on their certificate, but this is what life is. So and also I have seen the same son going through a first job courtesy some of our colleagues, because I don't name them because they are still in service, and going there for a year in some project related and such things, and then jumping jobs, getting trained and getting a job for which he wanted to go through. He is a mechanical engineer. Now he is studying somewhere in Sweden. I have seen quite a lot of my friends and relatives as people who go through training in, I say, some software fields, SAP, this, that, and get jobs based on that. But I don't see this happening in our project related streams. So something needs to be done to define what is our needs basically, and what are these people going to get trained, and for the trainers to train them in this proper manners. And one last point which I have, well, there are 2 points. One of the things where the training appears to be better for uh, um, other newer branches, non brick and mortar branches. What they do in job many a times cannot be taught in a classroom because of the changing nature of the requirement of these jobs. Whereas the obsolescence rate in our industry is fairly long, and whatever we are taught in our engineering hold good to some extent to the jobs we do. Um, Anybody who has reasonably good surveying experience, some amount of electrical experience, some amount of mechanical experience, um, and some amount of concrete experience in terms of knowledge can somehow manage on a job to begin with. So what the content of training is also need to be sort of defined. The other thing is our careers are sort of cast in stone basically. If somebody starts on a side job, he dies on a side job literally at the end of his 30th year. Probably becomes a project manager or something else, but his whole background is looking at how many bags of concrete per cubic meter of things like that. So if he wants to change, now I have given an example of a commercial manager wanting to be a design manager. Can he get a training and change? Can somebody get a training and change the jump ships from here to there within the related stream? That's what. These are the things I started the discussions with. I think kindly it's an open house. You can all put your thoughts into it. So one thing wherein I found things were easier was in the Western context. I think Sundar and others who have worked there and been members of these associations. In fact, I was also a member of one of the associations, which I am not now. There used to be a training component in giving the memberships out. You had to have had a certain amount of hours or days or months of training to become a member of the Institution of Civil Engineers, or I don't know, a member of the Institution of Structural Engineers, or MRICS. I don't know. Some of you are members there, can tell me. But we, in the Indian context, we are not seeing some of these things. So somewhere a similar thing wherein a mentor is there, he can guide somebody for about a year or two within a reasonable limits, might be useful. So these are the things somehow we can put your thoughts on. So I thought this will be useful. Once again, thanking Tony for sort of getting all this organized. Can I start this putting on the house now, so that people can put in their thoughts and we can discuss something?
Yeah, can you see the points?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. People can see that. This is exactly what I've spoken also. The thing more than what. Sundar.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking there is one of these guys. I'm recollect his name, who has already started this. I think soft skill training that is almost topping up after the engineering degree. Like what you were mentioning, one is educational qualification and second is professional qualification. So the membership for this RICS, ICE are more of the professional qualification rather than uh, trying to teach something new in the engineering field. So it is like more skills like report writing and actually assessing and evaluation of engineering problems, looking at the public at large, and how the engineering activities affect the neighboring, the environment or the climate or the public, those type of things, sustainability, and which people don't learn in an engineering degree. So those type of things. Is his name Ashok? I think. I mean, Tony, do you know this guy?
Yeah, sure.
He's actually
He's Ashok.
construction. Ashok,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Ashok, I think Ashok used to be probably a contemporary of ours who was more into concrete repairs and all earlier. I think it's the same guy.
No. That was NR Ashok. This one is Ashok is a construction management training institute or something he has.
Correct.
There are a lot of institutes also which are giving it out. And one of our colleagues, no, my colleagues, I think PSS and all know them very well. They have also started something. And in fact, they have
No,
taken
this
my
person,
photo.
this guy is a JMC guy, JMC and L&T guy. This Ashok, what Sundar referring is a.
See, my issue is it would be very helpful for them and also for people who get trained if there is a set of modules and say, okay, anybody can train. Like, I don't say people should get trained by only these guys, but the topic should be sort of uniform and measurable. Although I'm not very keen on this measurement business, but still, yeah, if everybody teaches different things, and it's becoming very difficult, I believe, for people to.
No, there are something what we are seeing in the industry is one, the people are not much understand the value of spending their money or time into the training. So, that's something which we are seeing as an hesitation. Another thing what I'm seeing is the people don't understand the importance of mixing the soft skill and management skill into their learnings. They try to be in the site and then try to be working there continuously or making their bosses happy. The amount of effort which they are putting into developing their management skills, which is very important for construction people, even those who are joining the site, they need to be a good manager. Project management skills need to be there. Managing skill, I'll not only say that project management skills, all the management skills. And as they grow in the ladder, the quantum of that skill is very high. But we hardly understand and we spend time on it. So how to make the people to aware that these skills are important is more important for us.
No, Tony, what happens is if it is rewarded, if somebody having these skills are rewarded, they will acquire that. Instead of an esoteric idea that people will acquire it to improve their jobs and all, they will do certainly. That will come at a clear level. If it is rewarded, somebody says, if you have got a training like this from some of these accredited institutions, etc., in fact, one of my other topics which I had suggested was the relevance of all these institutions like RICS, ICE, MISTRT, EMI these days. Does it fetch a job to somebody? That does getting a PMI or something like ICE or MISTRT or something? It happens abroad. People can get a job or get a recognition in their job based on some of these degrees, their affiliations. It doesn't seem to happen here in this country as it.
But we can still started seeing there's a lot of improvement. When I took PMP in 2007 compared to that today, we could see a lot of understanding in the industry. If there are two people with one person with a PMI and the other person doesn't have that kind of a credential, whether it's a RICS or anything, that gives an edge for the people. Like, the people started realizing even at the time of hiring also, people look at, may not get a full, see, if you have a certification or a degree, but your act and your experience and your how do you react is not responding to that theory, then it doesn't make sense, right? So the industry is also smart enough to equally weigh whether what you act and what you do in line with what you're talking. So yes, there is a kind of edge and weightage is there, and I think Niti Aayog and a lot of government initiatives are also talking about how to credentialize and give some reward of or encouraging organization to bring more quality people and to qualified people. I think that our industry even need to ensure that first they should be an engineer, then need to have some management skills or other additional skills to manage the project.
Absolutely right. When the people come from the colleges, they are raw. If you tell me the fact, people, even we came out from the Davangere and people ask me, tell me about your experience about a civil engineer. Then I just produce my certificates of my cricket. I say, sir, I'm a very good cricketer, but I will put all my efforts. So that's why my answer to one of the ITC in Gurgaon, I'm telling you the fact. So I interacted with so many RSCS people. I think Leighton hired more than 20 RSCS people for Camellia project in Gurgaon. And they are very raw. But Tony, correctly you said, there should be at least 2 years hands-on experience at the site. And then they'll be further, they'll be groomed to the management skills. So their hands-on site experience and then grooming into the management skill, these two, construction and the project management, will really take them for the further, growth. As you said, Ashok is a concrete technician, but what I see the future, he can be groomed to the further design mix. Once he do the design mix, he can run the batching plant as well. When he does the batching plant, he should know what are the monthly cost plan and what are the revenues, what are the wastages, and he can be a independent cost owner, profit and loss. So it all depends how the project manager or the leader of the company want to grow their people. So even the small packages, an engineer can become a package owner. So he'll be the owner of one small business.
Yeah, Tony, you can
This is
stop
how
there.
the people has to be trained. He should know how to make the cash flows, how to ask income statements, how to make the profit and loss for one small package. So it is a combination of the engineering and the commercial and the management skill.
Just to take forward this discussion, basically, I think I agree with all of these points. The guys who are coming out of the colleges, they are like in any other industry, like in civil industry, in other industry also, it is the same issue. In if I talk about the automobile industry, which I'm working for. So there also the guys who come there are as good or as bad as what we have it in the engineering, construction engineering field. So there the difference what makes there and here is, there we have actually anybody who is coming in, there is a very prescribed set of trainings schedules which are mandatorily has to be taken for the person to go to the next level. So there is something called as 70-30 ratio training. 70% is on-job training and 30% is basically a combination of an expert on the classroom training, and then around 10% out of that 30%, 10% is basically who can like fellowship or the higher studies what he does. So like membership to any of the training institutes or anything. So this kind of a ratio is normally followed everywhere. So I think why don't we probably, I think it's, but only thing what I don't see is in the construction industry. So this is 100% what I see is on job training.
You need to create certain rules to begin with, and so that a discussion starts in some of these, like in big builders organizations with their HR, or in places where you will be hiring your own people, so that it becomes easy for the man to get trained in where he gets a reward or a job or something, and for the trainer to also focus it, because it can't be a one more maximum an engineering student the final year gets his 6 days training, 8 days training. How does it help? And if somebody comes out of, and what do they get out of all this? This is my question, because people who train, people put money for all this, and the trainers also have to make some amount of money out of all this. And at the end of the day, generally people who get into this training are people who are looking for a job or a reward or something, and it's very frustrating. I tell you, after some time, it becomes, people will say this is all useless. It's like a scam and all something. So
I think, sir, government should make a policy that every private companies, they should keep some percentage for all that. People who come freshers. They cannot just escape any company.
no, sir, say government role is going away. Like, I'm not saying government manager, but I used to be a government engineer. Problem is, people like you who are leading the industry today should put up some amount of thoughts saying this is what we need for somebody who comes out of the, or at a mid career, at about 10 years of service. If he wants to become something else, this is what he needs to do. Otherwise, we will be forever lagging behind the emerging field.
See, one thing is, I hear you. I hear exactly where gaps are probably being felt. One angle that I would like to highlight is that it's equally on the part of employees. It's also on the part of the people to constantly learn, constantly improve their capabilities, competencies, attitudes, their soft skills. And, you know, forcefully, I don't think we can teach anyone once they have joined. See, two levels of training we are talking about. One is the freshers, which Sundar and others were saying about the finishing schools that many people are now trying to run. Okay, finishing schools can, or even Infosys has a big school in Mysore just to train people who are joining the company. That's fine. At that level, it okay. What about 30 years? So the next 30 years, I think it is squarely on the employees as well, because even the employees should be constantly learning, and there should be a learning mindset for a person, and it need not be always a one-way traffic. And for example, if somebody needs to pick up soft skills, for example, there are n number of opportunities through YouTube and Udemy and 100 other channels. If you want to pick up technical skills in terms of concrete or in terms of project management, in terms of construction management, in terms of quantification, quantity surveyorship, there are hundreds of courses available if someone wants to pursue. We cannot give same quantity, same thing to all. Those days are disappearing fast. This is one trend I need to highlight. Even if 5-year-old people, 5 year in the business, coming to a training, you give the same quantity of same knowledge to all of them equally is not producing results, because each one are at a different level and they want different things. So this all being what it is at the employer level, I would ask you, what's your view on employees? Because you can't clap with one hand.
Can I add one point here? See, one of the recently, which I do a lot of this training initiative. So I'll share my experience and the strategy which I usually follow. See, what we do, like, this is in line with what PKN and what Sadashiv and everyone has mentioned. The first and most, that 70-30, it's usually applied in a way 10-70-20. Aim is to ensure that everyone is taken into the theoretical knowledge. So what we have done is created, some background noise is coming. Okay, so what we are doing is we make it as a pyramid. The training is also recommended as a pyramid. The bottom is considered like a level 1 or a base, which ensuring that everyone in the organization have a same understanding. So what today happening is some people go and take some certifications, some PhDs. It is fine, it is good, but if it is not aligned, what will happen is what the others will not understand. So this is what happened to me personally in 2007. I took a PMP, but when I come to the site, no one knows. I was talking Greek and Latin, and the people are talking French and Spanish. So that kind of mismatching should not be there. So the basic level 1, level 2, it's exactly like Sadashiv mentioned. It should be more about a 70% of on the job, so that the people started appreciating. Today, what we are seeing is वो सब theory है, वो सब concept है. So practically is what? Close your laptop and go and stand the site and get the work done. अरे उसके लिए तो IIM क्यों जाने का है?
One important thing I would like to mention here, when Doctor mentioned about the training needs, how many in industry you got the developers or the client. It may be quasi government or private. And then you take another section, which is consultants. And third one, you say the contractors, and down the supply chain, subcontractors, all that. All these entities or stakeholders, how much money they spend on training needs for their employees. Except a typical example, you take a project management company operating in India, it's more or less become a body shopping, seconding staff to the client organization or to supervision. So they don't allocate enough funds in the organization to provide training. Okay, so there should be some kind of, like continuing professional development, lifelong learning. Once in 3 months, you organize bring Dr. Jayasimha to give a speech, into the industry at site or in office, corporate office, and say what are the latest emerging technologies. Similarly, commercial cost management. There may be somebody in India who is specialized. Come and ask them, deliver a speech. It can be outside the corporate office or inside or at site. I don't think that's happening in India. Even West is UK, Middle East is just about 70%, but in India, we lack this. And even the multinational company who coming to India, they only look at making money. Okay, if I put 10 people on the job, I recover so much, I make 50% on every person's charge out rates. This is what is happening, and it has happened even Mace. Okay. It should have been not like when it was Bovis. Yes, Lend-Lease probably, we had a family and they looked at Bovis, and Lend-Lease had some, structured training and all that kind of thing. Look towards UK and other countries, how things are being done. I think that's something which we need to look at in India. Not just government coming forward with it. The private sector is also responsible for it. Be it a client or a consultant.
Absolutely.
In fact, Sampath, you mentioned that they want to have more profit. Actually, if you train your employees, your profit goes up.
Yeah,
actually,
I think in the lower level industry, I think there is a little bit of a different reverse thinking here. I mean, I came across.
I was referring to what Sampath said about PMC companies.
No, I'm talking about training ground level workmen, I would say. So basically, I have an experience here. Actually, I pushed my contractor who was coming for my project. I said mandatorily you should have a training, and basically L&T has a training skill school near Attibele. I said you go there and they will give all sorts of trainings for you. And I had talked to them. So you go there and get the training and get the certificate. Then only your workers are allowed to come into the site. He dilly-dallied for so many months, and finally he ended up coming saying, sir, I don't have any problem in giving the training. I know you will be giving me the higher cost for me so that I can give a better quality. I know that. Even I committed that to you. But what he says, sir, I train him today. So what they come to me and they may finish the training and they'll switch over.
Yeah.
They will
Yes,
not.
I agree. I agree with you.
These people are staying with me for the last 10 years, so I don't want to train them.
I will narrate an incident now. When we were discussing with L&T to award the CREST project in DLF, this is exactly L&T told to the vice chairman of DLF. The vice chairman of DLF were very insistent in terms of how do you provide structured training to the workers and laborers and foremen and so on and so forth. L&T's Subramaniam told clearly the DLF vice chairman, sir, everything is fantastic. Your intention is good. We have a training academy or whatever the training schools. The problem which happens is once the people get trained and then get a skill certificate, the next day they are off the job. They are going to some other contractor, cashing in, getting a higher pay, and that's it. So he says it's a big challenge.
This
is worker level. This is worker level. I'm talking, like this may not be the same case as for an engineer or an engineer with 10 years experience, 20 years, 30 years. But at worker level, it is a big challenge in India.
Sam, this is why I said the onus of responsibility should be on the employee, not on the employer. Employer can give something specific to his whatever. If the employee gets a certificate, if he sees that the certificate fetches him 1,000 rupees a week more, that will help. So now my objective of going through this is that people like you should set up a broad framework of what is expected of a training program so that they can get a proper accreditation. Right now,
At
we are
various
seeing
levels.
lot of these people starting some of these training programs, it's individuals, it is companies. Sooner or later, I tell you, people are talking of huge numbers of growth coming into this industry, numbers, all sorts of things which we do on an Excel sheet. And then somebody like a Biju or somebody will come and start this. No, nothing wrong, nothing wrong, nothing wrong. But
See,
the point is, at least you people as end users of this talent should know or at least demand that this is what is needed in the industry. I think that is more. And the onus of responsibility should always be on the employee because he benefits. The company benefits. I agree. The company benefits in very specific. I can give two examples before I think I will give the floor to somebody else. One was we were doing a huge precast project in Purvankara on the Mysore road. Right now, about 3,000 houses have been built. For some reason, of course, after we all came out, they have stopped precast business and they given it as a Maivan construction to JMC. It's a business decision part of the management there. And when I went there, the first thing I saw was that L&T would respond to the demands of the supervisor. By supervisor, I mean people who are, including me, who are on the employee side. So I said, boss, I will have regular safety meetings because I have seen accidents happen on such a sites in my previous experience, which had happened on our ITCs, when people got caught under a moving gantry, etc., etc. And we had a reasonably good safety officer in our system, and I called him to give a 2-day training for our people. This is good enough, and it was very much appreciated and all that, because many people on the builder side never knew that safety would be so important and would be a reputational risk for all this. One of the topics I had suggested was also the stigma of being in PMC, which we all carry till this day. Well, a lot of people triggered in my builders company saying this fellow is a PMC type and all that. It's okay. They appreciated some of the PMC type things which I did. The second thing was, in an earlier job in JMC, they started a school like this because there were some our Indian expats from Singapore and all who wanted this kind of training. Some people were sent to Victoria in Australia. Australians came from there. They gave training. At the end of the training, the people who got trained became literally upper caste. I'm making this. They would not really work on site. They would go on giving instruction there. And these are foremen and fitters. They were not some great engineers and all. They would know how to do a proper farm work, because we were supposed to be in the construction wing doing so many bridges and all sorts of great things. Some of which we did, some of which we didn't do. And all these great fellows became total upper caste. They would not do anything. They would go on giving sermons here, sermons there, demanding higher facility, higher quarters. And finally, it was a bit of a headache. So I would still suggest that the framework should be by the end user like all of you. But the onus of getting a training should be on the employee. He should use his own time and money if possible, unless there is something very specific like an ITC. And the ITC was producing cigarettes which would kill millions of people. Myself, Sundar, and to an extent Pekan and Sampath and Natarajan was also smiling. How many times we go to Kashi or wherever, nothing will wash our sins away, because we used to produce at some point 17 million cigarettes a day. I have told Sundar, I said nothing will solve our sins for next 10 generations. Okay. No, to save that business, they had made the site a hell, and we were all new to this. We were all new to these white fellows working with us, and it was hell for us also. And there used to be a site wherein Bob Jollof, a Scotsman, 6.5 feet tall, running behind a Bihari labor or a North Karnataka labor, half a kilometer to catch him because he was not wearing a helmet. All this, it looks very funny now. Point is, ITC would want zero everything.
Look, Desima, the important thing, Doctor, the important thing in this, ITC was willing to spend for providing the contractor to provide all the helmets, safety shoes, training, everything, and they were willing to pay for the safety manager full time for Bovis. This is one of the key things.
Agreed. Okay? No. What I'm trying to say is, when an employer has something like, in fact, on our hospital site in 2001 in Bombay. JMC made a very practical Gujarati suggestion. They said, give us 1% more of your project contract cost. I will give whatever training you want, whatever safety you want, everything, whatever you want, we will do. Give me 1% more on my project, whatever I bid for this. So nobody was willing to give that. I said, please follow whatever you have written in your own ISO document or whatever these people had.
Next bless session we will have in Kashi. Huh? We will wash our sins first and then have the bless.
No, please go to Kashi, boss. It's really good now. It's really. I'm not joking. I've been in Kashi from some 8 months back. You can walk from Asti Ghat to everywhere. It was great.
See, I would like to respond to what Sadashiv said and Sampath said. You know, it might be even at the lower level, it might be a cause of concern that if we train them, they may leave us. So there is an anecdote on this. Probably some of you would have heard about that. So what is the cost of having undertrained people in the company? Who is calculating it? It is one thing to say that I train them and they leave. Okay. What if they don't learn and continue?
What if they are not learning and continue?
Yeah. PK, the problem is
PK that represents currently that represents 90%. That is the problem. People who are not trained is 90%.
Yeah, that is what I will say it in one sentence so that we exactly get the anecdote proper. What is the cost of training somebody and they leave? What happens? The other side is, what is that we end up having all the people who are not suited to do the job and who are undertrained, underskilled, and what is the cost of having them and none of them leave?
PK, the problem is we are used with that situation. The second situation, what you have mentioned, we are used with that situation, like Sampath mentioned.
Sampath,
so
yeah.
Understand the difference.
PK, bear in mind, automobile industry is regulated to some extent. Construction industry is unregulated.
Sadashiv wanted to say something. I think
sorry.
Yeah, see, what I wanted to say is we are left with no option other than to hire these donkeys. I mean, that's the sorry state of affairs we are into. But
if one or two of you start demanding that, I'm looking at engineers.
Coming to that,
Jasima sir, I have one question. Tell me how many developers get it work done through the contractor who keep direct workforce. None of the just a minute, sir. None of the major contractor, they all hiring the the PRWs subcontractor. That's why the training process is not happening.
See, yes. Let us not get into worker level. I will tell you. Let us start with let us see our industry as a overload of people who are not trained, especially at the workers level. Let us start at the supervisor and engineers level to begin with. To begin with. So, if people like you who hire and make a small policy saying that inside the organization that a certain amount of preference will be given to somebody who has got a certain
spending.
Sir, we are doing that. We have 10,000 direct workforce. Just a minute, sir. We are doing that because we have 10,000 workforce in direct Latin books. In our direct books, we feed them. I'm talking the labor, and we have a screening process. You will not believe last 10 years, we developed more than 200 foremen from the unskilled. They have
BK is talking about supervisors and above. BK
no. I agree, boss. I agree.
Supervisors. I pick those laborers to the junior foreman, senior foreman, and they have been promoted to area managers from the labor. Yeah. So this is in 10 years growth I'm talking.
That is
but the point is,
it started from Chennai, Ramanujam IT Park, Chennai, sir. It was 27 acre developments, 1,200 crores.
What I'm trying to say is, if all of you say this is the content of the syllabus, so somebody needs to be trained as a minimum. I can take what
we have the template
that people will be differently able, differently talented. So if you all can say that this is what minimum somebody has to get trained for, it becomes very easy for the guy to get trained and for the people to train also. No, otherwise, it will be a very chaotic thing. Then we can certainly do it. Say, I will tell you, there are people like Shobha, etc. in Bangalore who train the tailing masons, who train so many people. Okay, that's also there. It's happening. Even companies are coming forward to give all this training, and we have also done it. These are all CSR activities. But if something reward is given to guy who gets some amount of training, that will be very useful. I think we are running out of time. Tony, are we?
Yeah. I mean, actually, our time is crossed, but now we are in a networking.
I think it is an important topic. We should have a session 2 of this. I think.
Yeah, very important.
Yes.
It will really, I mean, this is what required in India. I mean, industry.
Yes.
What we can do
there.
in our
Recognition is not there.
In our WhatsApp group, people can start putting points in of the minimum amount of training required, say in commercial
Contracts.
Structure, train, all these things, so that we can put it as a charter to all these people, saying at least to the trainers. There are a lot of trainers coming out to say, boss, train these people in these things. It will be useful. I think.
Okay, sir, I have one request.
I have a question to Sundar. Sundar,
I have one question. Why we cannot put this software management into the engineering? I mean, like STAAD, ETABS, beam modeling. If the people are acquainted in the early stage.
Seems 20 years ago, I think our Sampath and we can all know, we have Lend-Lease was using Cheops as their cost management, and we were using a package called Hummingbird as the entire total project management. It works. And in today's India, where we all have such amount of connectivity and this, it works. Nothing stops the ETABS. See, that is what I am saying. The two areas wherein in the construction industry related to civil engineering, where things are fairly at a cutting edge, are one is cost management business, wherein there are a lot of packages which people use those things. The second thing is design. They design a lot of things which happens elsewhere. To 90% is happening in India. Some of the okay, I can see some cutting edge technologies still have not come, but we are still there. So these are two things which is still happening, and some amount of planning. If somebody has a Primavera certification, he gets some. So these are three things which is sort of adaptable for amount of IT and other things, which is good. I think we should also put framework for minimum on these things also, and also on the other things, so that it becomes easy for people to get trained and say, boss, yeah, I got these things trained. Give me a job, or give me a promotion, or give me a change of position, or something like that.
TK, you were saying about asking Sundar to comment.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Sundar some question if he's around. I don't know. Sundar, are you there?
I'm fully listening.
Okay.
I'm available.
Sundar, I just wanted to ask you, airport requires very high quality. I'm not saying that other places are not, but this is sensitive in the sense, your various facilities are quite sensitive for human safety, not only while construction, even after that. So how do you manage your skills and, in the contractors involved? And I know that you have hundreds of contractors. So how do you make sure that your workforce is skilled?
Actually, in the airport construction, it is a very, very closed group. The people who are doing the pavements will continue to do the pavements only, which is not in a road specification, but airport specification, very, very specific, very highly critical and accurate also. So my experience, what I have done was the last internship, what we gave before COVID. I took those 3 people and I put them 1 month in every kind of a department. I told you are just fresh out of the college. You are not decided. You are not. They have come out of NICMAR, so they have not decided anything specifically whether they are going to contracts or whether they are going to design or whether they are going into construction or quality or safety or anything. I put them one month in every department, so that they are able to absorb and assimilate what is there. At the end of the internship program, then we find out what is your interest now. After you have come through that, what is your interest? Now, what do you want to do in your career? So that was the type of the program which I introduced. I think they appreciated it very much.
Excellent.
So that was the thing. But yeah, I mean, airport, it comes purely by experience. The number of like the safety and the quality requirements, and everybody refer to what we call ICAO guidelines. ICAO is the International Civil Aviation, the organization, and they have an Annexure 14.
Also, it is heavily mechanized, right? These paving, airport payments and all that. So
yes,
the tolerance levels and accuracy and the quality is achieved by mechanization, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had to even have a friction coefficient for the surface because of the landing and the takeoff. The friction coefficient which you don't get in roads. And so those type of very stringent requirements, additional requirements on the pavements.
Excellent.
Okay, so another 2 minutes to wind up.
Pradeep Lavanya, I can see his name, but Pradeep Lavanya, thoda
unmute kar lo.
Yeah, unmute as well as show your face, that handsome face.
Natrajan is also like, he still have the challenge.
Yeah, I can see him. Yeah.
But your mic is. Can you? What is your view? You want
unmute?
To share?
Unmute.
Unmute yourself. Still muted.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Pradeep, we can hear
Pradeep ji.
Pradeep, we can hear you.
How are you also?
The way airports projects require the precision construction, same way the food industries and pharmaceutical also required very precision and quality conscious construction deliveries.
Right.
The training, basically training is a need based and it's a must. We can't avoid it. If we want to groom the people, we want to groom the performance, we need extensive training at every step continuously. If we want to improve, we want to go to the next level, we need the training. It is not wise every time you reinvent the wheel. Somebody that invented the wheel, he should tell us to go this way. We are saving the time, we're saving the money, we're saving the resources. Every time we're going to invent the wheel is not a professionalism. If training is not there, you will not find the Sachin Tendulkar. You will find the Vinod Kamble. He makes a 3 century in a match and gone. He could not make up to resist the quality border. Tendulkar get training himself.
Correct.
And he performed. Same way, this is top management create the needs. And once need is there, need-based training should be there to develop the core competency, specifically the person who is responsible to deliver. Regarding our doctor sir is telling the people is getting trained and doing the job. It's a HR job to retain the people is there. If the highly trained people is there, highly performing people is there, it should be rewarded. Otherwise, he will go somewhere.
Yeah.
This is my take about this.
Okay. I just want to share, Pradeep ji, I just want to share one good method of you training us. I mean, you have trained us in this construction. You are my first boss, I will say, on the side.
It is not a first boss.
It's a very difficult training. It's a very difficult training. Bench तो चला जा साइड पे मैं देखता हूँ तो कुछ भी कर देखता हूँ मैं क्या होता है.
जयपुर, सिलपुरी और जयपुर.
जयपुर.
Okay.
It's not a first boss. It's something like the first senior team member with you, and the training is induction.
Yeah, removing the fear of failure. That's one important thing which is part of a training.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Removing the fear of failure from you is a one quality which everybody has to put into their people. So that's what will make people to go and get trained on the job. That 70% is very important. So that's where the courage comes from, to go and perform there. And in turn, failure is the basic basic tool for you to get trained for the success. So that's what I say. I think that's one good thing what I learned from Pradeep ji is push your people to get trained themselves, give that confidence to them, and remove that fear of failure from your mind.
Amazing.
Okay, so with that, can I take a request to stop this session?
Dr.
concluding-
Jayasima started a good topic. He has not
So can you
completed.
just-
He started
can
a
you
good
just-
topic.
Sir, can you put
We
a
will
1 minute
continue
to
in our WhatsApp group, basically putting points so that some of you can put it as a charter to some of these people. It
Food
becomes
for
very
thought. Yes, yes.
Okay, so that is the recommendation from Jayasima sir after our kind of a hour-long discussion. Okay, great. So
Great.
thanks a lot.
Thank
sir.
you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay, so
Wow.
yeah, now we can move to the second.